So, these are the new biomes, eh? Well, this one looks pretty awesome. It looks like it just so happens to be a savanna! Hello Fretwellers and welcome to the Minecraft Weekly Snapshot, and this week is 13 week 36A, and it's the first snapshot of Minecraft 1.7's development. So excuse my little accident there in the beginning, falling down that hole, but here we are, and the first thing you may notice is the fact that we are in a new biome. No, I don't have Biomes Aplenty or Extra Biomes XL installed, this is now vanilla, but we'll get to that in a moment. So, this snapshot is one hell of a snapshot. It's a huge snapshot, there's lots in it, and there's lots of exciting things to talk about today. So, this marks the period of what is going to be Minecraft 1.7's development, and man, has there been a lot of stuff added. So, without any further ado, I think that we should get right into it. But just so you know, I'm actually recording on my new computer now. I have that set up, as you can see up there in the top right by the RAM. So my performance is a little better, but I'm still working a couple of things out in relation to audio and a couple of other things. So if this video doesn't turn out as good a quality as perhaps my usual standard is, then please excuse me for that. So let's get right into it. So Minecraft Snapshot 13 week 36A. As I said, it's the first snapshot of Minecraft 1.7's development. So there's been a large amount of internal changes to the game, but most of these have been undisclosed. But something along the lines of 50,000 lines of code has been changed or edited or updated in some form. So there's a lot going on, and if you are a mod author or you like to play mods, then potentially this update could leave the mod makers having to spend a large amount of their time getting the mods up to date for the next version. So, the first change is a rewrite and reorganize of the large portion of the Minecraft menu screens. So, if you hit S and go into options, then you will see that the menu looks completely different to what it looked like before. So, there is obviously the field of view, as we have already experienced in past versions, and the difficulty, fairly standard, no new difficulties there. Music and sound. This is a new option menu. So now we have greater control over the music and sound options within the game. So we have a master volume, which controls, from what I understand, everything. Then we have individual sliders here for specific things. So for example, I have turned the music right down, and you can turn certain things off, on, down, up, whatever it is. So it's up to you. For example, now, one of the most heavily requested features since beta 1.5 was turn the sound of weather off. That is now possible. You can turn enemy monsters up if you want to hear, but if you want to turn off blocks and environment, for example, such as the cave noises and breaking of blocks and whatnot, you can actually turn that off. Hear friendly animals, player-based noises, jukebox and note blocks as well. I've left that one turned up. We'll probably end this video on a song. But that's that option menu. Super secret settings. This is just a button that doesn't do anything at the moment. As far as video settings is concerned, nothing has changed there. But controls, this has received another big update as well. It looks completely different. We have the invert mouse button up here now, mouse sensitivity and the touchscreen mode. And we also have our buttons kind of organized now based on what they're for. So we have gameplay there. And this is perhaps the most significant one right here, sprint, left control. There is now a dedicated button to sprint instead of having to double tap W all the time. Now double tapping W still works, so if you want to continue doing that then you can, but now left control can control sprint as well. Got the inventory stuff there, that's all fairly standard. The miscellaneous ones, taking a screenshot, perspective, and the cinematic camera, which used to be F8, that's not bound to anything at the moment. And of course movement, the WASD, the left shift and the space, and multiplayer as well, nothing too much has changed there. So let's take a look at the new sprint. So before you had to double tap W to sprint like that. Now just hold down your very left control button and press W and you sprint straight away. So this should solve some of the multiplayer problems with people being able to sprint. So pretty cool change, so much better I think now than double tapping W. You're not thrashing your keyboard around as much. So is that one. As I said, video settings didn't have anything changed. Language hasn't changed. Multiplayer settings hasn't. And snooper settings hasn't. But resource packs has. So now resource packs are slightly different in the way that they work. So when you install a resource pack now, like we did in my tutorial, these will appear under this list, available resource packs. So these are all the ones you have installed. You can then select resource packs and they will go into the selected resource packs screen. And as you can see, vanilla is in there right now. So how does this apply? Because I'm sure you're thinking, well, you can only play with one resource pack. Well, that's all changed. Now we can play with 2 or more resource packs. So if you have a sound pack and a texture pack, you can put both in there. Make sure that they're in the appropriate order if you have multiples of the same type. And eventually, for example, if there was not a texture in the top texture pack, then it would go to the second one down, then the third, and so on. And this is a good way of organizing music, sounds, fonts, whatever it is that you've got to organize. You can actually organize them effectively and also use multiple resource packs now. Very, very handy stuff. So that pretty much covers the menu changes. There is a new achievement and statistics system which we'll get back to, and there is another world type which we will also talk about later in this video. But as far as menus are concerned, that is pretty much everything. So now, as I said, yes, the overhauled achievements and statistics. So now achievements and stats are stored on a per world basis than overall. So every new world you make, you will have a brand new set of achievements to get. Just the same as normal, take your inventory and so on, those types. And statistics, which are like how many picks you've made and stuff like that. And this now ties in with the scoreboard system for map makers. There is a ton of new objectives that people can use and make maps out of, and the possibilities are becoming more and more endless with each version. And I will link down below a video by Seth, which he actually does a review on the Snapshot, and he talks more about how this can be applied in that situation, because I'm no expert on the scoreboard system, but having watched his video, it seems that if you're into map making, then this is definitely a huge thing for you, because you can now control things like how many times someone has used an iron pickaxe and things like that, and you can work out currencies and all sorts of possibilities. And there are many people out there that know more about it than I do, so they will be better qualified to tell you, I guess, about how to use these things. But that is really what's changed with the achievements and statistics. So servers can now redistribute resource packs similar to how texture packs could be distributed previously, so in 1.5 and below. The resource pack size limit has increased from 10 megabytes to 50 megabytes. That will probably be to aid things like larger resolution texture packs and sound packs and so on. There's been some language improvements. I believe it's to Bidi and Hindi. There's been some language improvements there. Some more translations have been added in. And of course, bug fixes. Always is bug fixes. So that's pretty much all the under the hood stuff. Now let's actually get into the features of the snapshot. And we're going to kick things off here with the command block. So the command block received an update, well, just commands in general. So there's 2 new things really. The summon command and the give command has received some improvements. So let's just first push this button. And as you can see, a creeper has been summoned. And that is basically what the summon command does. It summons mobs. Now, it doesn't just summon mobs. It can summon, for example, stacked mobs. As you can see here, I have a creeper riding a cave spider. There we are. And I mean, the possibilities on this are really quite large, because you can stack multiple entities, you can give entities armor, you can make them ride minecarts. There's just so much you can do. And if you type in /summon and then tab, then you can see all the different ones that are out there to play with. You see all the mobs there, XP orbs, everything possible really there, prime TNT. There's just so much stuff that you could play with. So there are obviously other situations that you could apply this in. for creating stacked entities in game to create spawners, for example, and just have a little bit of fun like this. And we'll just finish off with this. You can get your own flying machine. As you can see here, I've got a bat riding a minecart, and we can just ride around here in the minecart. I'm going to left shift to dismount, and I'm going to have to... I've got rid of the minecart at the very least. There we go. So the possibilities again are endless with this. Seth Blin covers it in more detail, but I've just given you a basic idea of what this can do. I'm sure that there are many people out there who can really put this to good use and make some epic stuff. So there you go, that's just a bit of an introduction. And the give command has received some improvements as well. The give command now can store lore, named items and enchantment data, all that stuff. You can now give items. I've just got a diamond chestplate here with protection 3 and fire protection 2 as an example, but again this can be carried much further, and you can now really customize the items that you want to give to players. Instead of just being able to get an item, now you can get custom potions, for example, and things like that directly out of a command block, which is really handy, I'm guessing, for mini games and things like that. But again, I'm no expert on this, but I've just given you a basic overview there of what you can do. And there's also been, as I said, some improvements to the scoreboard system, but again, I don't really know too much about that, so I'm going to leave that to the experts. But there are a lot of things you can do, as I say, with the achievements and so forth, which these two things could tie into with nicely, I think. So they're the command block things. So moving on from that, there's been some improvements to the MBT format. That's more under the hood stuff again, but it's supposedly less crash prone now and things like that. But there we go. Can't say too much more about that one. So now let's get into what really is the main emphasis of this snapshot, and that has been the large overhaul on the terrain generator. The terrain generator, and if you're unaware or you don't play Minecraft, the terrain generator is basically like the engine which makes the terrain. So when you spawn in a new world, the terrain generator gets to work and it creates your world, and then as you explore, the terrain generator creates more chunks for you to play in. So that has received a massive update, probably the biggest it's ever had, and the first thing that they really wanted to address was the black spots often present in mountains and other similar biomes, the black spots in the terrain, and they have been heavily reduced. I have looked at some mountain biomes since this snapshot has come out, and I have to say I have barely seen any. I don't think I've seen any at all actually of those black spots, so that was something which I'm really happy about. They've improved existing biomes. So the biomes that we had prior to this update have pretty much every single one has received an update in some way. So plains, extreme hills, desert, and all those types of biomes, they now have a special variant associated with them. Now I'm going to let you guys get out there and explore for yourselves so that I don't spoil it all for you, but for example, pine trees can now generate in extreme hills biomes, and taiga biomes have a non-snowy variant, and there is a plains variant which is kind of like a meadow. So I'll just give you those three, but as I say, there's plenty more to explore and plenty more to actually do out there now, and check out these biomes for yourselves. In addition to that, as I said here, improved existing biomes each has a unique variant as well as their normal standard form. There's been a bunch of new biomes added. Now, I may not have listed every single one here. They're still kind of being confirmed at the moment, but the ones that I definitely know exist are Mesa, which is the clay canyon biome. So if you've seen the picture that Jeb tweeted out of the canyon biome with all the hardened clay, that's a Mesa biome. Savannah, which is what we're in now. This is a new Savannah biome, as you can see from the F3 screen. We've got a nice Savannah biome going on here. There is also a redwood forest, which has a special type of dirt, which we will get into later on. I haven't seen the redwood forest, but I've seen a picture of it, so I can confirm that one. A dense forest, which it has a different name to dense forest, but that's basically what it is. I've also seen that biome. There is a forest with just birch trees in, the birch forest. As I said, the non-snow taiga. and deep ocean. And as I say here, there's more unconfirmed biomes, I think, at the moment. So these are the ones that I know about, but the best way is to really get out there and explore. As you can see at the moment, I'm just in a standard ocean biome, and oceans have received quite a big update as far as the way that they generate, but there is deep ocean. As you can see here, it's deep ocean. If I go closer to the shore, it's river, beach, and there are just a normal ocean out there as well. So there's plenty to check out, as I say, with the new biomes. So I hope that you enjoy that and explore those new biomes. They're really, really cool looking. So they're the new biomes. Biomes are now sorted into 4 categories, and that is to prevent terrain oddities like desert next to taiga. That always really annoyed me, that did. Having to see a snow biome next to a desert, it just didn't make sense. So I'm really glad that they have been dealt with, so to speak, and now they are sorted into 4 different categories. They are snowy biomes, cold biomes, medium, and dry/warm. So, for example, snowy biomes would include snowy taiga, tundra, those types of biomes. Cold would be the extreme hills. Medium would be plains and biomes like that. And dry/warm would be the mesa, desert, savanna, those types of ones. And there is also at least one new technical biome, which is cliffs. You can sometimes see cliffs now. I'm also told that there are gorges in certain places now as well, so you can have gorges, which are, to be honest, are similar to ravines, but I think they're completely on the surface. There are those now between mountains and smaller oceans too. There are a big improvement to the terrain generator was to reduce the size of the ocean. Now, some people complained about that. I'm okay with it. Most oceans now are around 3,000 blocks in any one direction between 2 pieces of land, which is a pretty decent size, to be honest. You know, there's enough ocean there that if you want to play around in the ocean and explore it, you can, but at the same time, there is not too far apart between 2 sets of land. So you can play on land if you want to, and there's also a nice bit of room to go sailing, which is pretty cool too. So, moving on from that, there is an idea of biome temperature now been introduced. So in colder biomes it may snow at higher altitudes, so given snow-capped mountains. Really, really cool change. I've seen it on some mountain biomes now. For example, in the extreme hills biome at layers 80 and above, there is a chance that snow can fall on the blocks, so you can have snow-capped mountains and all those types of things, but again, it depends on the biome. For example, in Savannah, if I was to build up to a height of, say, Y100, I would not get snow on the top of it because the biome is simply too warm. And there is a mathematical formula behind it. I don't know what that is, and I can't imagine that it would interest too many of you, but there is a mathematical formula behind it. And I think Jeb posted about it. If you check his Reddit, I'm sure that you'll be able to find that. So there is that. I really wish you could save the page on a book. That would be something I would like. So moving on from that, we have a block unique to the redwood forest, and that is podsol, and it behaves much like grass. And this is podsol right here. I've got it surrounded in cobble. It kind of has like this leafy effect on it. I haven't been in a redwood biome yet, so I can't really see what it looks like, but hopefully I'll run into one fairly soon. But this is the floor texture, similar to how mycelium grows in mushroom biomes. So a very, very nice, just something different type biome really, with a different type of grass in it, and that is podsol. In addition to that, there is a new type of dirt. As you can see, the grass is not spread into this dirt, and I've had it here for several hours now. And this is a special variant of dirt only obtainable with the give command, which is programmed in such a way that grass or podsol or mycelium will not spread to it. And the way you can get that is by using give, your name, well, your in-game username obviously. So in my case, MrMFretwell1, and then the ID for dirt, which is 3, 1, and then 1. And that will give you 1 piece of this special dirt. So if you're in survival, you're probably going to want to put 64 there instead of 1, and this gives you the special type of dirt. And this special type of dirt will never have grass on it. So again, another really useful map making feature. If you have another type of dirt that's been dug up from the ground with, say, a shovel, the two won't stack. They have a different ID, so you don't have to worry about that. And that was one thing I was concerned about with this change, is the fact that once you dug dirt up, you might not be able to spread grass back to it, but that is not the case. You can still spread grass. So, moving on from that, we have lots of new flowers and plants. So let's check out my lovely little garden here. We have some new flowers, and I'm going to get some bone meal here, and I guess shears could be handy, but we don't really need them. So the dandelion is still here, fairly standard. That's been here since the very beginning, and you can craft that into 2 yellow dye. Now the rose has been replaced. There is no longer a rose in the game. It has been replaced by the poppy, and the poppy gives you 2 rose red dye, similar to how the rose used to, but it's now a poppy. Then we have the blue orchid, and the blue orchid actually gives you 1 light blue dye. I didn't put it in the chest, but if you drop it in your crafting grid, you can get 1 light blue dye. Then there is the allium, and the allium will give you 1 magenta dye. There is the azure blue, I don't know how you pronounce that exactly, and that will give you 1 light grey. There is a red tulip, which will give you 1 rose red, and 1 orange tulip, which will give you 1 orange dye, and 1 white tulip, which will give you light grey dye, 1 pink tulip, which gives you pink dye, and an oxy daisy, which will give you 1 light grey dye. Now, if you're wondering why it's not white dye, that is because that is bone meal, and it could lead to being able to just easily replicate them, so that's why it's light grey. And in addition to that, we also have these. Now, these are a bit different from these in the sense that while they still grow naturally in the wild, you can't pot them, and the way that they behave is slightly different. So all of these you can put in a flower pot for decoration or on the ground, it doesn't really matter. But these you can't. These are a special type. And we have a lilac, and you can't really do too much with that. You can make dye out of it though. You can get 2 magenta dye. There is the double tall grass, the large fern, the rose bush, and the peony. Now these 2, double tall grass and large fern, you can get those by bone mealing tall grass, and you will get a large tall grass. And let me just grab a fern. As you can see, we've got a fern, and I can bone meal that, and I can get a large fern. So they're another type of decorative plant there. There is the rose bush, which you can, I believe, only find naturally in the wild, and the peony. The rose bush gives you 2 rose red dye, and the peony gives you 2 pink dye. So these grow naturally in the wild, apart from, well, these 2 do grow in the wild, but the way you obtain them is by bone mealing. These, I believe, you can get with shears. And they're pretty cool. I mean, you could use them for decoration, but that's kind of it, really. And we also have the sunflower. Now, the sunflower I've put over here because it's a little bit different. All of these, you can use dyes, but dyes have already been in the game. This is a way to tell direction. The sunflower will always point east. So if I bring up my F3 screen, you will see that I actually have east there. So we've got north, west, and south. But the sunflower will always point east. So if you are ever stuck in terms of direction, then you can use the sunflower to tell you direction if you don't want to bring up the F3 screen. Now, all of these flowers spawn in different biomes. So these, I've noticed these in certain types of forests. These will generate typically in non-snowy tigers. I haven't seen all of these generate yet. I've seen a lot of them generate in meadows and in extreme hills. So pretty cool stuff there. You're going to have to kind of explore to find them, I would say. So there's the flowers. Now moving on from the flowers, here we are. There are jukeboxes are now twice as loud due to the new sound settings. So that's just a minor change, but it was worth noting. So now there are weighted pressure plates have been changed, and they can now detect entity weight as well as item weight, and this surprisingly is very useful. So if you see here, before you could only toss an item onto it and it would respond. Now you can stand on it, and you might not think it's that useful. But it will also work with mobs. And as you can see here, I have 5 cows on this weighted gold pressure plate. And as you can see, it's giving me a signal strength of 5. So how could this be used? Well, AFK farms. You could theoretically use one of these heavy pressure plates and let, I don't know, maybe 128 mobs build up, and then after that time either engage a suffocation trap or a lava based trap, and then you could use a hopper to collect the items from underneath and then transport them away. You could just go AFK basically all night by a dungeon or cave spider spawner, for example, and then you wouldn't have to worry about your game crashing. You could set it up in such a way that every so often all the mobs get cleared out and all the items get collected. So very, very useful change. Big fan of this one. I think I'll be using these a little more now. So there's been some improvements to item frames. These have received a small improvement, but nonetheless a very, very useful improvement. So now, before this version, if you left-clicked an item frame when it had an item in it, it would knock both the item frame and the item off the wall. This is no longer the case. I have this clownfish here. If I left-click, then it will remove just the item. Now, if I was in survival mode, the item would go flying off, and then if I left-click again, the item frame will actually then get knocked off the wall. And also, as you can see here, I have this diamond sword named Da Bomb, and this dirt block here, which is actually a podsol block, but I was just using it for demonstration purposes. These, you can see the name because these are renamed items. So when you rename a sword, for example, in the anvil or an item, and then put it in the item frame and look at it, you can actually see the name of that item. So this can be really useful for things like trophy cabinets and whatnot. Could be really handy for that. Your first nether star or your dragon egg maybe, and that kind of thing. You could actually make a proper trophy room using that. But again, you can only see it from pretty up close. I mean, what is that? Maybe 4 or 5 blocks away, so it's not intrusive. But this could lead to some grief in our multiplayer servers. It's going to have to be properly managed, that's for sure. Moving on from that, we have... let me see here. Cloning books. Now this is a really, really cool change, and this is going to be so useful for server admins, and that is the ability to clone books. Now I have a test book here, and books now stack up to 16, by the way. I have a written book here. It's called test book, and it just says this is a test book. Now if I take books and quills and actually put both in a crafting grid, like so, if I put my test book in here and my book and quill, it will combine the two and I will get 2 copies. And you can do this for up to 8, I imagine. 9, there you go, because you get your original book back as well. So you can make 8 copies as well as getting the original book back, and then you can actually make multiple copies of the same book very, very easily in survival mode now. Before, you could only do it in creative mode, and even then it was kind of tricky. So very, very cool little change, being able to clone books similar to how you can clone maps. Very, very handy. So we're blasting through this. There's not too much more left to do. So now there are falling particle effects produced when you fall a long distance. So the best way to do this is to go into the F5 mode and take off the F1, which is the heads up display, and then if I fall, you can see that I actually get that cool particle effect, which is pretty awesome, I have to say. And depending on how far you fall depends on the radius, I guess as you could say, of the particle effect. So pretty cool if you ask me. I don't know if it works with mobs or not. It might do. Let me just test that with this. Oops. With this guy. Yes, it does. It works with those as well. So it's always good to know. I'm just gonna get rid of that cave spider. So that's always good to know as well. It works with mobs, so you could create maybe some mob effects or something like that. Maybe you could create some ghost mobs for sinister effect that die on impact, that kind of thing, in maps. So moving on from that, we have silverfish can now infest chiseled stone brick. So over here if I knock one of these out, as you can see, it will now infest chiseled stone brick. So that's just kind of more of a bug fix than anything. That's all now been sorted out, so we have that. And now we have the, probably what I would say, maybe behind the biomes, the second coolest feature, and that is the overhaul on fishing. Fishing has been basically completely redone, and it's a lot better now. Now don't get me wrong, it's still not something that you would want to sit down and play hours and hours a day, but it's not something that you would avoid now, basically. Dinnerbone put it in the best way, I think. So, fishing now has all of these fish and different enchantments for fishing rods. So, fishing is done much in the same way as it was prior to this version by tossing your line out, but you now get cool little particle effects when your bobber is in the water. You can see some splashes there, and eventually some bubbles will appear as it goes towards your line, and when it bites on the end, whatever it happens to be, you can pull it out and reel it in just like you could before. We'll just wait for a moment here and see if we can catch anything. Let's see. Hopefully we can. You can just see those little splashes there. That's the fish in the water getting ready. It can be kind of tricky to see. There we go. One bit, but I didn't catch it that time. But you can see that the water there were some bubbles which then go and bite, and then you can hook up some different things. Now, these fish are not the only things you can hook up. You can hook up, I've hooked up an enchanted bow. It wasn't very good. I think it just had power 1 on it or something, but you can hook up an enchanted bow. You can hook up leather boots. You can hook up name tags now. Name tags are technically renewable, but they're in the better pile of loot. You can hook up lots of things. I don't know everything because it's not been confirmed, but have a play, test. It's always good to do it that way. So fishing has now been split into 3 tiers of loot: junk, fish, and treasure. So junk is things like broken fishing rods and broken leather boots, those types of things. Fish is pretty obvious, it's just all the fish that you can now catch. And treasure is things like name tags, lily pads, those types of items. So the different fish you can catch now is the raw fish, which you could get before. Then you can cook it into cooked fish. You can now catch yourself a raw salmon and then cook it into a cooked salmon. You can catch yourself a clownfish. I'm not really sure what this is for. It doesn't heal very much, so I don't know whether this is something that's going to have a use and it just currently doesn't have one. And also the pufferfish. Now the pufferfish will poison you if you try and eat it, but the actual pufferfish is useful for something else, which we will get to in a minute. So there are also 2 new enchantments relating to fishing and that can be applied to fishing rods, in addition to unbreaking. So we have Look of the Sea and Lure. Now Look of the Sea will increase your chances of getting better items. So if I have Look of the Sea 3, then I've got a higher chance of getting, say, a pufferfish than getting a broken pair of leather boots, something like that. And Lure increases the chance for an actual fish to bite. So these come up to level 3. There is also a level 2 and 1. Now I tried enchanting a fishing rod in an enchantment table and it didn't work. It actually enchanted it, but it didn't show you the enchantment. It just kind of does that. So I don't know whether that's a bug. It probably is. So you'll be able to enchant your fishing rods when you get access to enchanting, and be able to get a bit better loot from doing that. So these can also be combined. I combined this on an anvil, but it costs something like 43 levels, so I don't know if that would technically be attainable in survival mode. I guess you'd kind of have to choose which one you would prefer. Personally, I would prefer Look of the Sea over Lure, because I can wait a little bit longer. Lure's all about increasing the time it takes to catch things, but Look of the Sea is all about increasing the quality of the items that you actually hook up. So we're actually going to play with this one, which has both on it, and we're going to see what we get. And let's see here. So let's take a look for the particle effects again, and you'll be able to see the fish swimming up, or whatever it happens to be. It doesn't have to be a fish. It could be leather boots. It could be an enchanted bow. It could be something that's broken. We just have to see. That's part of the magic, I think, now with fishing. Before it was just kind of one fish all the time and it got pretty boring, but now there's an element of randomness to it, and I think it's quite enjoyable actually now. There we are, we just got a normal fish that time. But as I say, I wouldn't want to do it all the time, but it is better than it was. I have a feeling that Dinnerbone's not done with it yet, and there will be more fish added in time, but we'll just have to see on that for right now. Here we are, we've got another one. Just another normal fish again, and so on. Obviously, the chances of getting something really good are going to be pretty low, so I wasn't expecting to get something fantastic on that attempt. So I think that that is pretty much everything. Oh, finally, water-breathing potions. Yes, the pufferfish. So the pufferfish, once you've hooked a pufferfish up, you can actually use it to brew potions of water breathing. And in order to do that, you're going to need awkward potions and a pufferfish. So I've brewed up these awkward potions earlier, and you can toss a pufferfish in there. And what this will do is it will create 3, in our case, 3-minute water breathing potions. Then you can extend it with redstone to make it 8 minutes, and also make it a splash potion if you want to use. And basically what water breathing does is it keeps your air meter full while underwater, so you can go on longer underwater mining trips, for example. If you have a Respiration 3 Aqua Affinity 1 helmet, a good shovel, and this water breathing potion, you can then actually be able to go on quite lengthy clay expeditions. Because if you bring, say, I don't know, 5 of the 8-minute variety, then you're going to be able to stay underwater for 40 minutes. So that's really, really handy to actually have, to be able to get some of the resources which are found only in the deep sea. So that's really, really handy there. And that was everything in my book, but there are a couple of other things that did not make it into the book that we really need to mention, and that is that sugarcane got a retexture, and its colour is now dependent on the biome that it's in. So as you can see here, it's quite lush and green because it's on a beach biome, but if I put it here, it's got more of a dull texture to it, and if I was to put it over here in the plains biome, it would have a different texture again. So let's just run over here and just put it in the plains biome. It looks brighter. That's more of a it's more of the beach biome. Let me see if I can find a water pool. There's one right here. Gravel beaches. These now generate again in the terrain. You can get gravel beaches. It looks about the same, but you can actually get gravel beaches now. And there is also a new type of ice, and this generates in the tundra biome. It is the special variant of the tundra biome, and this is packed ice, and it is a harder version of ice. It does not melt, so if you put torches around it, it doesn't melt, and it sort of forms these icicles that come out of the ground in the special variant of the tundra biome. It's very, very cool. If you can find one, it's really awesome to check out. I don't know of any uses for it, other than the fact that it's probably a bit more blast resistant than normal ice is. But there's that as well, and it doesn't melt, so maybe you could build it in a home design or something. But the disadvantage to it is in fact opaque, unlike normal ice, which is sort of semi-transparent. But aside from that, really, that is pretty much everything that I can think of for the snapshot. There was obviously probably a couple more smaller things, but I've covered the main points. If you want to know more, then there will be a link down below to the Reddit page, as well as the Mojang blog post page and Seth Bling's video. So if you're into map making, I would recommend checking out that video. If you're just curious about what was actually in this snapshot, despite what I've said, for more in-depth information, then there is going to be Reddit there. And I'll also link a bug fix list as well, if you're curious about what bugs got fixed as well, so you can check that out. And that's going to be pretty much everything from me today, guys. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. And as I say, if this doesn't turn out as good a quality as it normally is, I sincerely apologise. It's just setting up with a new PC. I'm also going to be working on rebranding so many of my shows and giving them new looks, including a new thumbnail for this series. So if you want to comment on that in the comments, then please feel free to do so. I always welcome your feedback, and hopefully I'll see you in next week's Snapshot, when hopefully we will see some more completed things and whatnot, and hopefully I'll join you then. So until next time, guys, see you later and have a good day.